NFL coaches and coordinators play musical chairs every offseason. Beyond the opportunity to non-answer your way through post-game pressers and receive a fresh closet of team merch, the third coolest part of these guys changing jobs is their opportunity to transform their new group's identity. Every guy's got a philosophy, and every philosophy turns into a scheme. How effective that scheme actually is contingent on a bunch of different factors, but these are the marching orders that teams go into a season trusting will succeed. In this video, we'll break down 10 coaches in new cities and get a sense of how they want to play, where their biggest priorities are this season, and what it might look like on the field with their personnel. Let's get into it. Mike McCarthy in Dallas. The Mike McCarthy era just got bigger in Texas. The head coach will get more involved in the offense as he replaces Kellen as the Cowboys play caller. Although Dallas has fielded high-powered offenses throughout the past few seasons, this is a team that's championship or bust every year, and they haven't gotten out of the divisional round since 1995. That's a lot of sustained disappointment. Owner Jerry Jones's patience wears thinner every year, and for McCarthy, Moore must have seemed like an obvious scapegoat to pitch to his boss. After all, you could break the Cowboys season up into three distinct storylines. First, the defense was a huge part of the team's success, even carrying Cooper Rush through the early part of the season to go 4-1 after Dak was injured in the opener. Second, when Prescott came back, he went on to set a career high and lead the league in interceptions despite playing in only 14 games. And he capped off his year with 2 more interceptions in the divisional round of the playoffs, including one on the San Francisco 49ers 18-yard line en route to a 19-12 loss. And third, he drew up this play.
Final play, it looks like barring a penalty. Prescott over the middle of the turf, gets smoked right away!
So now, in year 4, McCarthy will take matters into his own hands. That doesn't mean he's burning the whole thing down, though. Instead, he plans to keep around 70% of Moore's playbook intact while injecting it with more of the West Coast concepts he became known for in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. He and Dak are calling it the Texas Coast, which is so dumb it's also kind of adorable. West Coast offense generally refers to a quick, pass-first system that relies on pinpoint timing. Cowboys brass has emphasized wanting Dak to get the ball out faster and are building out more short yardage options off their plays to give him answers. When we look at his time to throw stats from Pro Football Focus, we see that he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league when throwing in under 2.5 seconds, with only 3 of his picks coming out of these situations. Compare this to when he throws in over 2.5 seconds, his completion rate dropped down to 15th, as he threw more interceptions in these situations than anybody else. Another part of this equation is just simplifying the offensive scheme altogether. For my review, it looked like a chunk of Prescott's interceptions came off miscommunications with his receivers, like CeeDee Lamb here. To make this concept as simple as possible, let's focus on Lamb and the safeties back here. Lamb has an option route, where he can either run a skinny post or a sharper in route, depending on the safety coverage. If the safeties run cover 2 coverage, that means the post will be open through the middle, as both guys will part to defend their halves of the field. If they run something like cover 1 or cover 3, then Lamb and Prescott should go with the in route to hit the middle space in front of them. But the Bears do a good job of mucking up this look by having both safeties line up high to look like cover 2, but still staggering them both horizontally and vertically to create some doubt. It works to perfection. Lamb runs the post, thinking the safety closer to him will go into cover 2, while Prescott throws the in route, seeing the safety back up into the star at midfield. The pass then goes right to the defender. In McCarthy's offense, the passing routes should feel more like answers to multiple choice questions for Prescott to pick from based on what the defense is giving him. Moore's offense, on the other hand, better resembled a group project, as he wanted to get both players on the same page to make the defense wrong no matter what they chose to do. Simplifying the concept should allow the team to play a bit looser throughout the game. And to make everything come together, Dallas is also focused on shoring up its pass protection this year. The unit was ranked in the middle of the pack last year, and new offensive line coach Mike Solari will look to improve on that and open up throwing lanes for quick darts. The Cowboys' offense has already been good. Now it's about doing more of what they do well, only better. Also, it'd be great if Dak didn't throw so many picks this year. Kellen in Los Angeles. While maybe an obvious scapegoat at his previous stop, offensive coordinator Kellen looks like found money in his new gig. And why not? He fielded 2 number 1 offenses during his tenure with the Cowboys, and while the most recent iteration of that unit wasn't elite, it was still pretty good. It also threw the ball downfield, which is a touchy subject for Chargers fans. See, Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott netted out in 13th and 14th among qualifying quarterbacks in average depth of target last year at 8.9 and 8.7. As for Los Angeles' guy in Justin Herbert, he was 36th at 7. Previous Chargers OC Joe Lombardi was criticized this past season for his conservative play calling, and even he himself has admitted to some of this. Although the Chargers have been fine for the last couple of years, when you have a budding star like Herbert as your quarterback, sometimes you just gotta let it rip. Just this past season, he threw for over 4,700 yards with a 68% completion rate. Watch for Los Angeles to use more 11 personnel sets with deeper passing concepts off of them. A big question surrounding Herbert's last year and later development in the league is whether Lombardi handcuffed him with safe concepts or if he's just a more conservative game manager type quarterback by nature. With more, we should have a pretty good idea of the answer. But the passing game isn't the only story here. Over the offseason, Moore has harped on improving the run game. Even with Austin Eckler as the lead back, the Chargers weren't a very good rushing attack. Their yards per attempt ranked 30th in the league at 3.8, while PFF graded their line as the worst run blocking unit in the league. Moore has led successful rushing games with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, including 2 top 5 yards per attempt seasons during his tenure, and this past season, the Cowboys ran it 6th most out of any team in the league at 45%. Compare that with Los Angeles' 31st ranked at 32%, and the fact we saw Herbert take the most dropbacks in his entire career last year, and we're likely to see a few more runs out of the Chargers this season. For Los Angeles, after an excruciating loss in the wild card this season, they're thinking deep run in the playoffs. I think Moore gives them a solid shot to do that. Vic Fangio in Miami. From one of the more unique defensive schemes in the league with Josh Boyers, the Miami Dolphins will conform to the trendy ideas of the past few years on that side of the ball with tastemaker Vic Fangio. Where Boyers is the goth kid smoking cigarettes at lunch, Fangio sits at the cool coordinators table and tells them the same stories of his 2 shell safety triumphs to a crowd all too eager to hear them again. When I've thought about Miami's defense in the past, the Dolphins-Ravens game from a few years ago would pop into my head. Miami ran a cover 0 blitz 35 times in the same night to completely stunt Baltimore's offense. And this image wasn't far off from reality. Since Boyers took over in 2020, the Dolphins ranked in the top 3 in blitz percentage every year. An aggressive style that paid off at the outset, but apparently had diminishing returns each season thereafter, especially as offenses learned to beat them through the air. This past year, the Dolphins defense ranked 3rd in blitz percentage at 33.3% and gave up the 6th most passing yards and the 9th most points. With Fangio, Miami is looking to install something much different. Fangio has become famous for a 2-deep safety shell look that a lot of people can misconstrue as his teams relying on cover 2 zones. While he definitely plays these concepts, a bigger piece of Fangio's defensive philosophy is predicated on having a wide variety of coverages available without tipping their hand pre-snap. Where Boyers' defenses were on a mission to overwhelm offenses, Fangio's defenses plan to outthink them. Unlike Boyers, Fangio is much more conservative with the blitz and typically reserves it for high-leverage third-down situations. In his last year as a head coach in Denver, his Broncos ranked 15th in blitz rate. Back in 2018, when he won Assistant Coach of the Year with the Chicago Bears, he ranked only 23rd. Throughout his last 11 years in the league, Fangio has maintained a fantastic defensive resume, leading top 10 scoring defenses in 8 of 11 and top 10 yardage allowed defenses in 7 of 11, all while having a middling blitz rate. Fangio often uses complex coverages to confuse the quarterback. These types of looks, like cover 4 or cover 6, require DBs to communicate and read the game well. And the Dolphins' defense has plenty of interesting pieces to fit into this revamped system. Xavier Howard, though more of a man-to-man specialist, should have the talent to make it work coming back this year healthier, and although Javon Holland slumped in his sophomore season after a fantastic rookie year, he still showed flashes throughout it. Fangio has spoken highly of him during camp. Up front, the idea would be that Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb can work together to get pressure with just 4, then, on third downs, use a well-timed blitz to unleash one of them while the quarterback is trying to decipher if it's cover 2, 4, or 6 downfield. Miami also added perennial Pro Bowler Jalen Ramsey to the mix this summer. Unfortunately, he injured his knee early in camp and will not be back until at least December. Ramsey's addition was part of what made Fangio's hire so exciting, so this is a bummer, but Ramsey should be in position to make an impact when he returns. After all, his best year in 2020 came off of Brandon Staley installing a very similar defense to Fangio's in Los Angeles. If he can get back healthy, he and Xavier Howard should make for one of the best cornerback duos in the league, propped up by Fangio's scheme. In any case, look for the Dolphins to blitz much less while using zone coverages to shore up their pass defense this year. Todd Monken in Baltimore. With Todd Monken in and Greg Roman out, all signs would point to next year's Ravens being much more airborne birds than they've been in the past. Roman built the Lamar Jackson offense, creating a run-first unit built around what his quarterback does best. Since Jackson took over full-time in 2019, the Ravens have gone 53-23 while being a top 3 rushing team in each of the last 4 years. Jackson has no doubt done his part in the scheme, being a top rushing quarterback in the same period, surpassing Josh Allen in the number 2 spot by nearly 1,300 yards. He's also taken 100+ more attempts. Coming over from the national championship Georgia Bulldogs, Monken wants to use an offense that passes more often, and has already confirmed Jackson will run it a bit less this year, following a quiet trend already happening in Baltimore as his rushing attempts have steadily decreased from the 176 height in 2019. The headline around Monken is the fact he wants to spread the ball around the field, both horizontally and vertically, to set up explosive plays. There are a few ways that this will manifest. First, watch the Ravens to run more screen plays. With Roman, Jackson never finished higher than 28th in dropbacks ending in screen passes, while only 6 college quarterbacks threw more screen passes than Georgia's Stetson Bennett last year. Opting for more screen passes with new receiving options in Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers should help push defenders further outside to protect against them and help thin out the box for when Jackson does run. Next, Baltimore should likely throw more deep passes overall and more to the middle of the field specifically. While Jackson's deep ball accuracy has been on the decline since his MVP season in 19 when he was lethal, there are lots of signs that he is talented at reading the field and knowing what's open for him to throw. His actual mechanics, I think, may have just stunted his growth from a statistical perspective, especially on throws outside the numbers where so many of the Ravens' deeper routes went. Employing a larger route tree and more of the field will force defenders to account for more. It sounds like Monken believes that if he can scheme up open intermediate and deep balls, Jackson will find them easily. Now it just comes down to trusting Jackson's mechanics have caught up to his IQ. And lastly, look for the Ravens to remain heavy users of play action. Over the past 4 years, Jackson has never dropped out of the top 4 in play action rate, and in his MVP season, he actually led the league in this stat at 34.8%. Of course, Monken is still a skilled run caller, and the Ravens would be doing themselves a disservice to not rely on the run game at least a decent amount. The Georgia offense last year was built on the inside zone run concept with a bunch of read options built off of it. The Bulldogs quarterback, Stetson Bennett, tied the team lead in rushing touchdowns at 10, and while Bennett has some nice mobility, he is not even close to what Lamar Jackson is as a runner. Where the Roman Ravens were a running team that passed, the Monken Ravens will be a more balanced offense, forcing the defense to account for more in an attempt to open up the field for big runs or passes. Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. The Indianapolis Colts have finally hit the reset button this year, and with that comes a new head coach in Shane Steichen and quarterback in Anthony Richardson. While the job will also entail the growth and quality control of the Colts' defensive and special teams units as well, let's be honest, Steichen's job depends on how well the new franchise quarterback performs in his rookie year. After so many bandages over top of the quarterback position since Andrew Luck's departure in 2019, drafting Florida's Richardson has injected some hope into Indianapolis. As long as he looks NFL ready, shows progress, and competes in a system that makes sense for his diverse array of skills, Colts fans should, for the most part, be satisfied, even if the team doesn't do a lot of actual winning this season. Steichen has the resume of a quarterback whisperer throughout a few of his stops in the league. In 2020, he was the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers during Justin Herbert's breakout first season, where he set an NFL rookie record for passing touchdowns at 31 en route to winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. More recently, he was the OC for the Philadelphia Eagles this past year, propping up Jalen Hurts on their way to the Super Bowl. And although Hurts was already a couple years into his career and development as a passer, there are some similarities between him and Richardson, like the fact they're both dual-threat quarterbacks that should take advantage of their athleticism. Beyond just pissing off the rest of the NFL by introducing the nearly unstoppable quarterback cheek sneak in Philly, Steichen also installed an efficient and effective system built around the run-pass option, or RPO. And he didn't just staple together a bunch of the same old RPO plays that someone like Nick Foles was running back in 2016. Obviously, there will still be plenty of those one-read looks in there to put Richardson in positions to succeed, whether that be through regular RPOs or read option plays, but I'd look for Steichen to make his mark on this offense with Richardson by using the read option pass, something we saw in Philadelphia a few times. This concept marries the traditional read option play with multiple passes available on the back end. Here's a touchdown pass that Jalen Hurts threw off of one of these plays in Week 6 against the Cowboys. There are 4 options on this play that break out into 2 different reads. The first read comes off the initial decision to either hand it off or take it himself, the read option part of this play. Hurts will read the Cowboys' edge rusher, and when he takes an extra flat-footed step inside, he'll pull the ball down and roll out to start the next read of this play, the pass. Now, Hurts can choose between a flare route from Dallas Goedert or a delayed fade from Devontae Smith. He'll read the coverage from the back of the end zone. When both defenders go for the flare and that space opens up, Hurts has a throw over the top for an easy touchdown. A lot of these RPO plays are meant to be chain movers. Scheme guys open, try to get them into space, and go down with 4 to 7 yards happy. Make the easy play again and again. The idea here, I think, would be to get Richardson into a rhythm by executing consistently on easier reads. Then, when the defense gets frustrated and wants to jump him, it'll be up to both Steichen and Richardson to counter with an explosive play. This year, watch for the Colts to lay the offensive foundation for their number 4 overall pick to thrive in. Brian Flores in Minnesota. If I had to describe the 2022 Minnesota Vikings defense in one word, abysmal. Enter new defensive coordinator Brian Flores. Flores has been a figure in the league for over 15 years and is a defensive disciple of Bill Belichick's. While he was a linebackers coach in Pittsburgh this past year, where he really made his mark on defense most recently was in his transformation of the Miami Dolphins unit during his head coaching tenure there between 2019 and 2021. When he arrived, the Dolphins' defense was the worst in the league. By the time he left, Flores had molded it into one that fit securely in the top half. This is not unlike the situation he's taking over for previous DC Ed Donatel in Minnesota. Although the team won a bunch of games, they ranked 2nd in points and 4th in yardage allowed, giving up tons of ground on both pass and run plays. So, how will Flores change it? First, watch for the Vikings to become a much more aggressive defense this year. With Miami in his final 2 seasons, Flores' teams ranked in the top 5 in both man coverage and blitz rate. Compare that to the Vikings, who ran a much more Fangio-style defense, where they ranked 25th in man coverage and 19th in blitz rate. Flores has also always been flexible with his personnel usage to play to the strengths of his players. One of the more interesting Flores soundbites from this offseason has been his thoughts on football IQ from an individual standpoint, saying, "I like to think I have a pretty good football IQ, but I can't play. We need guys who can play, who can run, who can hit, who can tackle, who can get off blocks. I put more of a premium on those things." Instead, he wants the entire unit to understand concepts through communication and camaraderie. Because of that, Flores' schemes, especially his blitzes, can seem exotic and complicated. Sometimes that's just the nature of the beast to confuse offenses while getting the best defender to make the play in the best possible spot. Watch for that to manifest itself most in safety Harrison Smith. One of his strengths is in getting into the box and being a blitz threat from the second level. In 2021, he blitzed 43 times, but with Donatel last year, he blitzed only 14. I'd expect Flores to up that number significantly. Watching this sack against the Carolina Panthers in 21, you can imagine how the Vikings may start opening up lanes for free rushes at the quarterback. The Dolphins will start with 5 guys up at the line, 1 for every offensive lineman to deal with. While the highlight of the play is the actual sack, what makes it all come together is how linebacker Jerome Baker fakes his blitz to drop into coverage. The threat of him forces Carolina's line to rotate to his side, but when he drops out, the Panthers are left with 3 linemen to defend against 2 rushers. This works in tandem with tackle Christian Wilkins, who gets across the center's face to the other side to part the C's of the A-gap. And then Duke Riley just does a great job executing here, where he starts going up to that same left side, but then curves around to the middle opening for almost no wasted space to get pressure immediately. All in all, I'm excited to see what kind of groundwork Flores sets in his first year in the position. And anyways, it'll be pretty difficult for Minnesota's defense to get any worse. Bill O'Brien in New England. Bill Belichick is getting the band back together again. Offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien will enter his second stint in this position with the Patriots after previously serving as New England's OC between 2009 and 2011. After some time away as Houston's head coach and Alabama's OC, it'll be a welcome return to something familiar. The Patriots went for an unorthodox approach on offense last year as they dual-wielded coordinators who had both never coached offense at this level in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Predictable and watered down, the whole thing never really got off the ground. Mac Jones felt the frustration more than anyone. After a pretty promising rookie year, he slammed into a sophomore slump, where he threw for less yards per game, had a worse completion percentage, was sacked more often, and saw his quarterback rating drop by 8 points. It got so bad that Jones sought outside coaching help because he felt he wasn't being put in a position to succeed and wasn't being coached hard enough. With O'Brien now at the helm, there's a good chance Jones will get his wishes.
And Bill O'Brien, his offensive coordinator, fill in the blanks.
One of the biggest issues with New England's offense last year was just how out of sync it was. While the plays may have been designed just fine on paper, they didn't really go together in any sort of rhythm to get the defenses questioning what they were seeing. Too often, the Patriots would come out in shotgun with 11 personnel to throw it, or sink into heavy sets to run it. Defenses then would have a good guess at what was coming because the Patriots would tip their hand so often with plays that felt more developed in a vacuum than part of a holistic system. Compare this to O'Brien in Alabama, where he'll give you the same formation with the same motion and run 3 different concepts of it to target different players at different levels of the field. Another difference we'll likely see is a higher usage of RPO. O'Brien made good use of it in Alabama with a bunch of slant and downfield options for Bryce Young to choose from depending on what the defense gave him. Last year, the Patriots did dip their toe into the RPO waters, but only barely. According to Patriots.com, Jones threw 19 RPO passes with his average depth of target on these being negative 1.3 yards because all of them were screens. Again, Patricia and Judge's offense was just behind the curve by a few years. And lastly, the O'Brien Patriots should likely run the ball out of shotgun more often than last year. That New England team shied away from running out of the gun in spread sets because these plays only garnered a 36% success rate versus the 42% of those under center. While that may seem counterintuitive because teams generally want to stick to what they're doing well and do it better, I think this Pats team will run more from the gun to adhere to both O'Brien's more rhythmic offensive tendencies and the logistics of using RPOs more overall. While 2022 is a year that Jones and Belichick would probably rather forget, this next season should invoke some hope into the team and fan base as a whole. O'Brien should have his offense looking much more competent and get Jones back to his rookie numbers that showed some promise. Jim Schwartz in Cleveland. For a while now, the Cleveland Browns defense has been a mirage. They look good on paper before football actually starts, with high-level talent in Myles Garrett on the edge and Denzel Ward outside, and exciting developing players like Grant Delpit and Greg Newsome, only to be what Cleveland fans scream about most every Sunday. Well, that, and for head coach Kevin Stefanski to just run the damn ball. But for the defensive part, the Browns are hoping veteran defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz can right the ship. The first thing Schwartz will need to fix is the Browns' porous run defense from last year, which ranked 25th in yards allowed. Across his stops in Tennessee, Detroit, and Philadelphia, Schwartz has been known as a defensive line specialist. Since 2014, his defenses have ranked 11th, 15th, 1st, 7th, 3rd, and 23rd. From what he's said so far, he wants to keep things simple for his defense to ball hawk in the run game. The defensive line flocks to them, the linebackers clean up anything in the second level, and the defensive backs try to keep the field tight. From ClevelandBrowns.com, tackle Dalvin Tomlinson said this during camp. It's just a different type of attack defense. I feel like this one is as aggressive as they get, and as a defensive lineman, to be able to use all your power and explosiveness every single play is like a dream come true. In the passing game and in general, Schwartz wants to try and generate pressure with just 4 guys and keep 7 in coverage. But that doesn't mean Schwartz's teams don't find ways to overwhelm offensive lines and get sacks. Like Fangio, Schwartz doesn't try to outnumber the guys in front of them so much as he tries to misdirect them from where the pressure is coming. This play in 2020, when Schwartz was still at the Eagles, does a good job of showcasing how he does this without sacrificing bodies in coverage. The beauty of this play lies in how the interior defensive linemen work to pinch the offensive line without actually pressuring them. Similar to what we saw in the Flores play, we'll see both of these guys drop out into coverage after a jab step in. They'll then cover for the 2 linebackers who come sprinting around a condensed pocket to generate pressure on the outside. The confusion leads to the Giants having 6 guys into block, including their running back, while only 4 Eagles generate enough pressure to bring Daniel Jones down. At the end of the play, you can see the center looking around trying to figure out what just happened. Overall, Schwartz's success will be based on getting this Cleveland team to do the fundamentals at a much higher level. Tackling, containing big plays, and not breaking down in high leverage situations. If he can do that, then this Browns defense should be a lot of fun to watch how they utilize their stars. Sean Payton in Denver. This past season might as well have been 34 games for how long it must have felt for the Denver Broncos. The Nathaniel Hackett era was essentially dead on arrival, as the ex-head coach struggled to get plays in on time, watched as his locker room and sidelines became equal parts circus and fight club, and led the worst-ranked offense in the league. The first time the franchise has ever experienced that. And so, Sean Payton enters the fray to re-establish some order. The defense was one of the best in the NFL before they, understandably, started letting go of the rope late in the season. The offense and restoring quarterback Russell Wilson back to elite status will be Payton's highest priorities. And he's more than qualified to do it. Payton's Saints teams ranked 6th in scoring on average across his tenure there, and he did so with a similarly extremely smart and talented, but undersized, quarterback in Drew Brees. The difference between these two up front is that Brees was fairly statuesque in the pocket, typically dinking and dunking for short passes and screens. Wilson, on the other hand, has become famous for extending plays and firing up moon balls deep downfield. But some of the principles that Payton created around Brees in New Orleans may benefit Wilson a lot, especially as he enters his age 35 season. For one thing, despite having the 16th best graded offensive line, Wilson was sacked a league-high 55 times this past season. No doubt, a large reason for this came from longer plays that didn't develop properly and left Wilson holding onto the ball trying to make something happen. His time to throw ranked 32nd in the league out of 40 qualifying quarterbacks at 2.95 seconds. Brees, meanwhile, was never sacked more than 37 times in a season, and his sack rate has never been higher than 5.4%. Wilson has had 9 of 11 seasons with 40-plus sacks and has surpassed a 10% sack rate twice. To fix this, Payton will likely design plays to help Wilson get the ball out quicker and spread it around to the skill players around him like Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. Of course, Payton won't remove what Wilson does so well, which is getting out on the run and firing up accurate balls 20 or more yards downfield. Instead, I think Payton will want to build more efficiency into these opportunities by leveraging more play-action designs. This past season, Wilson was much less effective off play-action, especially compared to some of his best years in Seattle like 2019 and 2020. Compare this to one of Brees' best later years in 2018, where he threw less often off play-action than Russ, but was more effective while keeping the ball out of danger. In 2022, Wilson threw 78 play-action passes for a 39% completion rate, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 7.7 turnover-worthy play percentage. Compare that to 2018, where Brees threw 55 play-action passes for a 50% completion rate, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 3.3 turnover-worthy percentage. Of course, to make play-action really be effective, the offense has to run the ball well. The Broncos were all over the place last year on that front, with plenty of turnover on a unit that was mediocre at best. Payton and Denver will hope Javonte Williams can come back from a knee injury last year and fit into this new offense as an RB1. With all-around abilities in rushing, pass catching, and pass blocking, he could slot really nicely into what Payton wants to do, assuming he stays healthy. There's no denying the Broncos crashed and burned spectacularly last season, but there's plenty of reason to think they can turn it around this year. After all, it wasn't that long ago that Payton stepped into a 3-13 situation in New Orleans with less incumbent talent and turned it around to 10-6 the following year. Nathaniel Hackett in New York. The Peter Principle is a concept which observes that employees in hierarchical institutions, like a corporation or a football coaching staff, will be promoted to their level of incompetence. When referring to this phenomenon in the NFL, I say we start calling it the Hackett Law. Nathaniel Hackett is out of the head coach's office and back into the open floor plan of coordinators and quality control guys for the New York Jets. And really, it should help him get back in the saddle of what he does well, which is drawing up good West Coast offense to take advantage of big-armed quarterbacks. Like with his successor in Denver, the main story of Hackett's year in New York will be about setting up a future Hall of Fame quarterback with answers to any questions the defense will throw at him. Hackett has worked with newly signed Aaron Rodgers before in Green Bay between 2019 and 2021 when Rodgers won back-to-back MVPs. Hackett has mentioned in interviews this offseason that he wants Aaron Rodgers to have the freedom to run the offense. Like what we mentioned when discussing McCarthy's time in Green Bay, this will mean creating concepts that have multiple answers at different levels of the field with plenty of checks and kills built into them. The West Coast offense is timing based and often goes off what the defense is giving you, so getting a guy with a football IQ of 3,000 in there with a bunch of options at his fingertips should hopefully bode well. But it won't only be about passing. The Jets ranked 24th in yards per attempt on the ground this past year, which was probably made to look worse due to the poor quarterback play throughout most of the season. New York is betting on Breece Hall returning to form after suffering an early season injury last year, where he was butting into a potential Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate. Because Hackett likes to operate a zone running scheme, Hall should be set up to get back on track. Coming out of college, scouting reports preferred him in these types of schemes for his patience to find the hole and one-cut speed to shoot the gap. From all the reporting, it sounds like this Jets offense is as much Hackett's as it will be Aaron Rodgers, a partnership between two well-equipped offensive minds. And if it all goes well, I'm imagining smooth sailing for Hackett, and for this blip with the Broncos to just be a funny story he can laugh at later. But if things go sideways for the 40-year-old quarterback, whether that's injury or just a drop-off in play, I'm not so sure Hackett will be able to regroup and regain control of his unit. Good luck. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy it and consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch the next one. And I also just wanted to shout out all of the great resources I used to put this together. Seriously, there's such great stuff out there, and I'm going to try to do my best to link all of it in the description below for you guys to check out. Anyways, thanks again, guys. Bye.